This is a video of a 10-part web series on the PPILOW project. PPILOW means Poultry and Pig Low Input and Organic Production Systems Welfare. The main objective of the project is to co-design innovations to improve the welfare of poultry and pigs raised in organic and free-range production systems through a multi-stakeholder approach implemented by 23 partners in 9 European countries. The PPILOW project aims to improve welfare in pig and poultry low-input, outdoor, and organic farming systems, improving the sustainability of such systems. One of the strategies explored in PPILOW concerns the adjustment of early management conditions of chickens in order to improve their resilience and, in turn, their capacity to face later challenges. Slow-growing chickens reared in organic outdoor systems usually arrive as chicks from hatcheries after transport and delays, before being given feed and water, and outdoor access induces a necessity to face both sanitary and climate challenges. In order to ensure better welfare of these chicks, one PPILOW study conducted in 2023 tested on-farm hatching. In this video, the difference between conventional and on-farm hatching, some aspects of animal welfare that must be considered between these practices, as well as the PPILOW project's study of on-farm hatching and what can be concluded from that, will be presented. In conventional hatching, fertilized broiler eggs are incubated in setters at their hatcheries, where all the eggs are contained during the hatching phase, lasting anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. Once all the chicks are hatched, they can be removed from the hatchers to undergo processing, often including vaccination, grading, counting, separation, and finally packaging for transportation. At this point, the chicks may undergo up to 72 hours without access to feed or water from the actual hatching until the broiler chicks finally arrive at their respective production farms. This conventional approach towards hatching poses many questions to the welfare of the animals. Transporting chicks from hatcheries that may be far from production farms, especially for specific strains hatched in small batches, can lead to long periods of feed and water deprivation. This often results in dehydration, weight loss, repressed intestinal development, and finally, stress. On the other hand, the idea of on-farm hatching has been working to overcome these welfare issues since 2006. It is the practice of transporting fertilized broiler eggs from hatcheries after about 18 days of incubation. This incubation period is referred as the setting phase, during which the eggs are kept in a controlled environment with a stable temperature and humidity. It is an essential step in the development of the embryos as preparation of hatching. By transporting the broiler eggs to their respective facilities after they have undergone this developmental phase, but before hatching, one can greatly improve the welfare for the animal by reducing the negative impacts of conventional hatching. The experiments performed by PPILOW was one of those working to improve early life management and resilience in slow-growing broilers, discussed and chosen with the PPILOW French National Practitioner Group dedicated to poultry. More specifically, they investigated on-farm hatching techniques that would limit perturbations or stress in broiler chicks after hatching under organic conditions. The objective of the experiments was to put on-farm hatching into practice in a small-scale farming system to better conceptualize how it works and identify areas for improvement. In a first experiment, 2 batches of naked neck slow-growing chicken eggs, commonly used in outdoor organic farming practices, were collected from a private hatchery and used for this experiment. These batches were incubated together at an experimental hatchery located 300 kilometers away from the farm. For one of these batches, the objective was to test the environmental conditions and the 1-2 born system, optimizing the temperature of the eggs during transportation and hatching in the chick house. This batch was transported to the organic farm after 18 days of incubation, where the eggs were set in a chick house heated with 2 electric radiant heaters. The second batch of chicks was transported for incubation and on-farm hatching on the same farm. For the second experiment, the egg environmental test conditions were refined by using different heating systems, and the broiler chicks were followed up until the end of their growth period. In both experiments, the temperature around the eggs during transportation was maintained between 33 and 36 degrees Celsius. The chicks hatched on farm from both experiments were vaccinated against infectious bronchitis and Marek disease after hatching on farm. The results of this study showed that maintaining an even distribution of heat on the egg trays during transport and hatching was one area with room for improvement, which likely affected the optimization for hatchability. At the beginning of the first experiment, eggs were prone to overheating towards the middle of the trays due to the powerful electric radiant heaters used. As a result, on-farm incubation resulted in lower hatchability than that of control chicks. In response to this, better hatching performance in Experiment 2 could be reached by replacing the 2 strong electric radiant heaters with a smaller ventilating one and a heating blanket kept below the eggs and straw litter. By this change, the hatchability went from less than 80% to over 90%. From this, one can see how even slightly modifying the temperature regulation could improve the overall results of the hatching. The second part of the results of the second experiment required a longer period of testing to observe the chickens up until the end of their growing period. The initial body weights of the on-farm hatched chicks were greater than those of the control group on average. Between the two groups, in terms of production, the feed conversion ratio remained consistent. In terms of the animal's behavior, there were only slight differences between the reactivity of the chicks. This PPILOW experiment shows the interest of on-farm hatching. However, some adjustments are still necessary to see its true potential in small-scale farms with low-input thermal regulation. This would especially be the case in an organic, outdoor broiler system. Although on-farm hatching may be promising for research in animal welfare, there are some constraints to face before it can be widely incorporated into small-scale farms. For the farmers, the process may not be as convenient as traditional hatching, as they must find hatcheries that are willing to send small batches of eggs at 18 days of their incubation. In addition, the farmers cannot choose the sexes of the chickens they receive since they are still in ovo, and would be uncertain of the number of chicks they receive as the desired sex. On-farm hatching also requires fine-tuning of other parameters, like temperature regulation through different seasons and time of day, and regular adjustment of temperatures. This temperature constraint would also increase energy consumption when compared to traditional poultry hatching. Finally, hatching on-farm requires vaccinations to occur on the production farms, which means farmers must purchase the vaccines from vets and learn new practices. However, in larger-scale outdoor poultry systems, it was found to be possible to get the eggs vaccinated in ovo at the hatchery at 18 days of incubation, with resulting very good hatching results within the Chick Boom French project. Finally, from the farmer's point of view, on-farm hatching in these semi-experimental conditions was found to be rewarding, having the birth of the chicks on farm, but also more stressful with temperature fine-tuning and time-consuming. To conclude, in this video, the definition and importance of on-farm hatching has been outlined, as well as its potential in the scope of the PPILOW project. During this PPILOW experiment, means for improving conditions for on-farm hatching have been determined, but continued research is necessary for refinement adapted to small-scale farms interested in this practice. On-farm incubation could also be a second experimental practice considered to reduce the perturbations and delays before the chicks start on-farm, possibly combined with on-farm hatching.